Hey everybody, War Hamster Brady here with another in our series on grassroots spotlights, where I talk to people around the country who are making a difference in their communities. Rejoining me today is one of my first guests I ever had on, a dear friend of mine, absolute ally in San Diego, activist Audra Morgan.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, and Audra is she's very active on X. She's got a good Rumble channel with some viral videos. She's still doing the radio show, I believe.
I'm
And
not. No, I'm doing my podcast though.
okay, the Eye of the
Yeah.
Storm. Yeah,
hmm
and I get notifications for that, and I stick my head in every once in a while. So I try to keep up with everything that's going on down there. But you're on today to talk. What have you been up to? Because you've been busy since I've been gone these 2 years.
I know it's crazy that you've been gone that long, but it's definitely gotten crazier here in San Diego. So I've just been, trying to uncover a lot of the corruption that is going on, or I have been, and just exposing it, just doing investigative journalism here, and truly uncovering child trafficking. That's really been my focus lately. But there's so many things that are going on in San Diego, whether with the border, that was a real major thing. And in fact, I just had a rally. It was a worldwide rally that we do with people across the world. And we had it at one of the Southwest Key Program locations, which is where they were holding the unaccompanied alien children that came across the border that should be shut down. There was a DOJ report that had come forward, and they were doing an investigation, and a lawsuit was coming forward. And then once they shut the border down, Pam Bondi wound up just kind of letting that fall to the wayside, which is a little bit scary to think about because they still should be held accountable
Yeah,
for trafficking and sexual abuse, different things that were taking place within the entity. But it was great because on the event I had, there was like 25,000 people watching it live, which was fantastic because it just shows the timing is kind of ripe for talking about trafficking right now. I think because the federal government is admitting that it's happening or has happened. They're not so much admitting that it's still happening right now, but it's opening up people's eyes and minds and allowing them to kind of go down that rabbit hole, as opposed to kind of just always saying it's a conspiracy theory. So I feel like the time is ripe to really be talking about child trafficking, whether it's unaccompanied alien children or our own children in the United States who are being trafficked through foster care and the family courts and different things like that.
yeah. You should talk about holding people accountable. Do you specifically have names, organizations? I mean, we just did an episode on the Catholic Church's finances in a Vatican bank, and Catholic Charities is a big part of this. How much of them do you see in San Diego?
Oh, they're a big part. They were one of the biggest NGOs that were trafficking the people across the border. In fact, the one here in San Diego and many of them across the nation have filed for bankruptcy due to pedophilia. And so it was really hard to follow their money because of the bankruptcy. So you'd have to look at like FEMA grants that were coming in order to follow the money. Otherwise, and then even from just the county, they were getting the most actually from FEMA out of any other state. The one here in San Diego, which was really interesting because we weren't always the hot spot. It's always been a hot spot, but we weren't the main hot spot in the beginning. It was Texas, and other places. So it was just interesting to see that they were getting the most of this grant money here in San Diego, and especially after having filed bankruptcy due to pedophilia. So it's like that should have been a reason not to engage with these people. But that's the thing, is that's what they do. And they have other programs and different things that they deal with within the county because they like to provide other services. Them and Jewish Family Services are the two hot ones here. And you see more Jewish Family Services going to like county meetings or city meetings and trying to get grant money. Like it doesn't matter if it's for unaccompanied alien children, for just illegal immigrants, for behavioral health, for homelessness, for senior rideshare. I mean, anything and everything. I like to call them money whores because they're, just will do anything for the money. Doesn't really mean that they're going to be providing a service that is legit or completely true. Like when they're saying they're going to provide all these things, all they do is just have to say they're going to do it. They'll get the money, and then there's no real accountability or transparency beyond that point. And I think that's why the government works with these NGOs, is because they can basically, hide the money, they can racketeer with it, and you're not really able to kind of hold them accountable or see any kind of auditing, because they'll provide just enough information to like the county as far as what their money went to, and they think that suffice. There was an NGO, South Bay Community Services, SBCS. They got $6 million from the county to open a transfer site, or like a temporary one, where they weren't going to be dropping off these individuals onto the streets because they wanted to hide it. And so they got $6 million, and it lasted like just over 4 months, and they paid a third of that to their employees. So it's like, and then when they did the breakdown for the county, it was like 4 pages, and it said, and it took them like 4 months to give me these 4 pages. It was ridiculous. But it only said like, we gave meals and we spent this much money. We did flights and we spent this much money. Well, how many flights and how many meals? You know what I mean? Like it wasn't clearly broken down where you could see, okay, well, that sounds like you're spending the money logically. Because if you spent $5,000 on flights, it's like you could have done 3 flights, you know what I mean? And nobody would know. And so they just think you're doing a service here. But when it's going into the pockets of these companies, I mean, that's where most of the money goes. But if you look at anything that happens within any kind of community, like city or county, the most of the money that goes towards anything is to pay the people to do it. And then there's like barely any, maybe 10% left over to provide whatever service it is. So it's like, make that make sense. You know what I mean? Like you're not even really putting the money towards whatever it is. You're just filling people's pockets.
Yeah, it's a good thing we've got a what is it, San Diego Council to keep an eye on them. And of course, I'm being very facetious because they're part of the grift.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to. That's the thing I think really gets us is our public officials are in on this gig all the way across the board.
100%.
And how do they how do they get elected? How do they always have these deep campaign coffers? Well, it's a big circle jerk.
Yes, but they continue to racketeer with their campaign funds after the fact. That's what's happening too. It's like they take these millions of dollars and they dish it out to each other, and they put it in entities like here in San Diego. This racket is huge, and it involves the district attorney, the city attorney, the mayor of San Diego, bunch of the board of supervisors, and they all have like the same treasurer that they use, and they have the same entity that they'll send money to, which is like this PO box. It's TMC Direct. Which they're supposed to be like providing materials for campaigns, like flyers and different things. Well, there's nothing that's being provided, but they're sending money to this PO box, and it's this Cardenas family who was charged with fraud and have been convicted of crimes for taking COVID money, the PPP loans, and saying that they had employees when they really didn't, were just basically paying themselves off. And these people use this PO box. I mean, it's supposed to be a business to send their money to. So it's like they're just sending it around to all these entities. And this is stuff that you can find on the government's website. So they do it in plain sight. It's just that, are people paying attention? And of course, there's other, rackets that are going on outside of that. But it's just interesting to see like how much extra pay these people get. I mean, the mayor of San Diego is making the most out of any mayor ever in San Diego, and more than many outside of here. But it's over $700,000 a year, because he's supposed to be making like just 200 something as a mayor, but within all the extra pay and stuff that comes in, they're rolling in dough. And we're in a huge deficit. And it's like, it's because you guys don't even spend the money wisely, and you don't care if it is. I mean, there's a huge racket going on in Tent City, which is supposed to be a safe sleeping site here in San Diego. I'm talking, this place is bug infested. Like they just gave them new tents, and all the tents they're infested with bugs, like mites. And the food that they give them you wouldn't even eat it, but they're getting millions of dollars to provide this service. And instead of, helping them get and move out of this this place into housing. First of all, they don't have any housing. Second of all, they're like torturing the people there. It's rat infested. There's maggots and flies because they are not doing the services that need to be like provided, like trash pickup and things like that. So there's like piles of trash. They have no evacuation as far as fire goes. People are dying from overdoses because the Narcan or naloxone is locked up in a temporary building and it should be in their tents. There's sexual assaults happening there. They're hiring people who are high on PCP and have like ankle monitors. So it's like, are they the ones engaging in sexual assault? Because these things aren't being reported either. And they want to act like, oh, no, this is such a great place. And I'm like, no, I've got a whistleblower who's been giving me information. They actually retaliated against him, fired him for, trying to make a change and make it be better, because it's like, you shouldn't be, basically punishing the homeless for being here. And if I talk to people outside of Tent City, they're like, oh, we don't go there because that's like, it's like a prison, and it's not. And that's what it is. They literally enclose them in this metal fence so they can't get out if they wanted to. If there was a fire, there's only one exit, and there's no fire extinguishers. I mean, there's mold in the showers. Like, there's so many code violations, but instead of doing something, they want to retaliate. Now they're trying to find a reason because he was an employee and a resident. Now they're trying to write him up so many times that he has to vacate that place and put him back on the street. So, I mean, these people are very nefarious, the things that they do, because if they really wanted to provide a service and do right by the people, you wouldn't be exploiting them, but you don't have a business unless you have people to, exploit. So, I mean, all they really care about is filling their pockets. And that goes across the board, even into the child trafficking. Like, these people call it cash for kids. So it's like all they care about is making the money. It doesn't matter who they're like torturing in the process, be it children or whatever. I mean, in these places that, like in San Diego, there's many child facilities that there's lawsuits coming forward from sexual abuse that's been happening for decades. And like the county won't even make any kind of like talk about it. Like, they just pretend when I bring that up, they act like I'm crazy for saying it. And it's like, you give these people awards and you're literally hiring pedophiles. So I don't understand why you guys aren't willing to do anything about it. You just want to act like it doesn't happen, but you're allowing children to be abused right now because you won't shut that place down. And instead they're like giving them awards and praising them for the work they do.
And anyone who's inside the game is protected.
Yes.
And well, he's making a really darn good argument for limited government. One of the couple things I noticed, she didn't say Republicans or Democrats. She's talking about the government itself and all the entities. It's all of it.
Yes.
This is not a right-left thing. It is a corruption thing. We had a couple years ago, I put together a proposed constitutional amendment that I played on the air a few times, and it's gotten a little bit of play. It's been introduced on the floor of the Michigan legislature by one of our friends, and hopefully I can get a little bit more viewership of it. But the main two ideas are: only registered voters can contribute to campaigns, which means no more of these NGOs, these entities, no PACs, none of that. Corporations done because they are not registered voters.
Right.
And part two is campaign money cannot cross state or county lines. You do that, and a lot of the stuff you talked about goes away to some degree, or they'll have to reinvent a new way to pull off the grift. But
Right.
It's got to be there. And you might actually get some honest politicians, some places that actually want accountability that aren't part of the money system. So.
Yeah, I know. It's weird too, because it seems like, I think a lot of people are, I mean, they are like groomed to be in politics, but it's hard because it's like, you wonder, even if somebody goes in there kind of, thinking it's benign, they potentially would corrupt them in the process, because I mean, money, corrupts, and, it's the ruler, it's rules this world basically. I mean, along with darkness, but it's something that they use for all their nefarious things. So I think it'd be very difficult for someone to go in there and kind of stand against it and not want to do it. Doesn't mean it's not possible, but the hope is that, you could weed the people out by not having that racket be possible, like that easy to do.
Well, you saw how hard they went after Elon Musk for exposing corruption in government and waste in government spending. Right. Anybody who stands up against his system is going to be a target. You're talking about the richest man in the world, and they did a full out assault on him, anybody who owns a Tesla, etc.
Right. Which was stupid because it's not like that affected him. Like, that's what was weird. I mean, even burning down the Tesla thing, I'm like, that's not his. Like, I mean, you're just giving him more business because then he just gets to make more Teslas to replace them. I mean, kind of
Well,
counterproductive, but
the radical left is not exactly logical at times. So
no.
you did some really good investigative journalist work down by the border. Must have been about a year or so ago. I think you were with Luke, and you found some buses outside of a Hotel Circle. I never got to follow up to that, but once you elaborate on the story, what you guys were tracking and what you saw.
Okay, so it was we were doing a point in time count that led to 50 military age men behind a fence. And that the point in time counts to count the homeless. And that was like the first introduction for me to just seeing them on the street, because you would know that that's what's happening. They're talking about them being released, but I hadn't really experienced it firsthand. And that's what led me to want to uncover exactly what was going on with it. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So I asked the guy at the place, like, what are they doing here? Because it was like a very pungent smell. It was, and the fact that there were 50 military age men, it wasn't like you're seeing kids and stuff. It was like, whoa, this is very interesting. And the fact that they were lined up looked like they were going to be doing something after that. So I was talking to the guy and he was telling me, just give me your email and I'll send it to my supervisor and they'll get back to you. And I thought, no, they won't. That's exactly what you say when you just are trying to, brush me off. And so but I was asking, are they going to go somewhere? And he was kind of like nodding yes, but he wouldn't really give me any other information. So I was like, let's wait. So waited, and then seeing them cross and come out of the church and go across to the school, which was the site that I was talking about with SBCS that opened it for $6 million. So that was the place that they had. It was an old school that they shut down. In fact, I had heard that they forced the school to use it for that. The school didn't necessarily want to. Now it's being used for affordable housing, but there was a bus there. And so it was like, oh my gosh, this is interesting. Where are they going to go? It was like really made me curious to find out what their whole deal was here. And I thought, because from the get-go, they were really like pushing back and not wanting me to like get any information. I didn't understand that, because I thought, if you guys are doing something benevolent, like, why wouldn't you want to go, like, this is what we're doing. We're taking them to the airport, or we're taking them wherever. And so when we got to the gate and I saw the bus leave and everything, went back to where they meet up after the point in time count. And there was a council member, because there's also the mayor of San Diego that will go. But I saw this council member, Stephen Whitburn, and he's actually the one whose district is got the tent city that he refuses to mitigate. But anyway, so I'm asking him, I said, what was going on here? I said, I saw 50 military age men. They're like illegal aliens or whatever. Like, what are they doing? Well, we don't consider anybody illegal. Okay, I understand that. But what did I see here? I'm trying to figure out, like, what is all this? And he would say, well, today what we were doing is counting the homeless. Yes, I know. I totally know that. Why are we having two different conversations here? Like, I'm just trying to get you to answer what I saw. And he just refused. And I said, this is the problem with you guys, is that I'm like, we're literally having two different conversations, because you want to talk about the homeless, which, yes, I know that's what we were doing, but I'm trying to see why I saw this and what's happening here. And the fact that you don't want to tell me is a real big problem. So then it just made it so that I was like, okay, I'm going to uncover this entire thing, because you guys don't want anybody to know about it. And that means that we need to know about it. And so then it was like, we just follow buses to different areas. Somebody gave me a tip about the Ramada Inn, which is what you're talking about. And that's where, that night they were bringing, busloads of individuals, and the Public Health Department of California is paying that hotel and another hotel. It was the 4 Points. And the Ramada was run by the Catholic Charities. And then this other hotel was run by the Jewish Family Services. The Jewish Family Services were dealing with the people that were coming across by the CBP One app. So they would go to the port, have an appointment, come across, and would still get the same services as the people who crossed illegally. through. I mean, both of those were illegal. It wasn't legal to do the CBP one app. It was just they were pretending it was. But anyway, the other people would cross the wall, and it wasn't even that far from where the port of entry is. Like, it's literally like one of the locations. You can see it just diagonal, like at the wall, not that far away. It's like a couple miles. And then, but then all along the southern border in many different little towns, all the way out to Hakumba, they were also coming across, which is crazy because I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, but they would be crossing, like come to Tijuana, fly in a lot of times or get transportation there. And then depending on what, means they were trying to get across, which would many times be engaging with the cartel would take them all across the southern border and have them come at different spots. And it would depend sometimes as far as like what their ethnicity was. So they'd have specific groups go to specific locations. But I'm like, you were just in Tijuana. You could have crossed right there. There's a crossing right there. And they made you go like 50 miles east to cross in some pretty rough terrain. So, I mean, just that, there's a racket going on with there because these people are paying them money. And I just thought, like, man, they've been hoodwinked. Anyway, so the Ramada, and now these two hotels are closed down, and they're being renovated. So the public health department was giving them like over $40,000 a month to basically hold these places as to be able to use them to have these people come in. So that's a pretty penny because with inside of like the Ramada, there were cots. It wasn't like they had their beds. They had to stay in their rooms, but they did have a food service that would come. And finding that out, it was like, I was at this one restaurant. It's called Crust Kitchen, and it's not too far from where the Ramada is, but it's about in between the Ramada and the Four Points because they're both in the city of San Diego, just in a few miles apart. And so at the restaurant, I was just getting coffee before one of my events, and me and my girlfriend see these like bins, like black bins with yellow tops. And she always would go in there with her family. So it was like, she was familiar with the place, but we didn't know what was going on here. And so we asked the guy that they have like a liquor store, like a convenience store right next door to this restaurant that they also have. And he was saying that they give food to the illegal immigrants. And I was like, what? And so then when we go inside and we see those tubs, it was like, oh my gosh, I think this is it. So let's like play it out and see what we can find out. And so she was just, because she goes there often, she was just trying to like ask him like, well, how much are these meals? Like, I'm just kind of curious, like, in case I want to get some or whatever. And they said, oh no, yeah, we're giving these to the immigrants at a hotel. And I was like, oh, what hotel? And they said the Four Points. And I was like, that's weird because I thought it would have been the Ramada, and it wasn't. And so they were saying that they give like 1,500 meals a day, basically. So 3 meals a day for 500 people. And that it was like a contract that, because they'd been contracted before with the county to provide meals for different things. So this was kind of a good contract for them to get. And unfortunately, it was screwing over their employees because the employees were not being able to work as much because they were shutting down the restaurant for a period of time to make these meals. So the people that were waiting tables didn't have the business to come in, and the owner didn't really care. Like when they would talk about it, they'd say, this is like cutting into our ability to make money. And he's like, so, because I mean, he's got the contract, he doesn't care about them, and I'm like, so you're actually like screwing over your own employees to get this contract to give to illegal aliens. And so you're aiding and abetting, which is illegal. You know what I mean? Like nobody was ever like acknowledging that what was happening was wrong, or even that there was like an invasion happening. It was as if we're in San Diego, it's happening, and nobody's like, everyone's just acting like it's like normal, nothing to see here. They never approached it in a way of like, we have a problem. I mean, we even had a little 5-year-old girl be raped by an illegal alien from Venezuela who got a fake visa on a military base and in her home. And it was like, and they still don't act like they want to talk about it. But what they do talk about is at the county giving $5 million of ours every year to provide criminal defense to these people. So it's like, instead of acknowledging that this little girl's been raped, they're like, no, we want to give these people a defense. We should be paying for it. And it's like, what? I don't understand. You're doing this little girl a disservice, and everyone who has been raped or murdered or came against from these people who came across our border. You know,
You
we're
know,
complicit in all of that stuff that's taken place, and
what's
nobody wanted to acknowledge it.
what's striking about the tale you're telling is just how well coordinated everything is.
Yeah.
From the buses at the hotels, they have security there, and everyone, all these people are in on it, and they don't speak out because hey, I got to get my paycheck. But it's coordinated all the way from the state level,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just amazing how big the racket actually is. So here's the $1 million question. I've been in San Diego most of my adult life, and we're all familiar that a lot of illegal immigrants. Some of them are decent people, and it started to get bad in the 2 years before I left. I mean, it was starting to get really noticeable. How much has it changed since they quote unquote shut down the border? Have you seen an improvement?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So, I mean, they did stop, like, because there was, when you saw the street drop-offs, that was something that was pretty intense. And they stopped doing that and actually took them to the Ramada. So they were slowly making moves to then continue to kind of hide it. But as soon as the border got shut down, it was very different. So like, they're still coming across, but they're not being detained by, like, they're evading Border Patrol, and many of them are Mexicans, so they can't seek asylum. So it's changed in that way, but there are still like probably like 30 to 40 maybe that come a day. But as soon as, because I was at the hotel, the Ramada, the day before Trump was inaugurated. It was on the 19th, and I kept telling them this place is going to be shut down, and telling the security guards, because they would get violent. They've even manhandled me, told me to come inside the gate, and then were like physically, pushing me out. I was like, you can't set me up like that. Don't invite me in and then, manhandle me to get out, whatever. But so as soon, and they were just being, oh no, Trump, I have another job kind of lined up just in case, but yeah, come and get us, Trump, like trying to be all arrogant. And I just thought, like, wow, you guys are, this is pretty interesting, the fact that you want to, still act like this. But they never thought they did anything wrong. And they would even say, like, if I brought up the rape, they're like, Americans raped first. And I was like,
Oh
this
God.
rape has been happening since the beginning of time. And I was like, in America hasn't been around that long for you to say America's the first ones to rape. So anyway, I had gone back to do a report after that, probably like, maybe 2 months ago now. And, but I continued to check on the places because they were still open. There was still some buses that were being outside. And I'm like, this is weird. And then you see that Trump, the administration, was saying that they needed their accounting as far as like what the money was spent on and how many people they helped and all of that. So that's the only thing they kind of like pushed down the pipe to them. But as I would do these like just checkups, it seemed like stuff was still happening, because I'm like, not that I would see the people there, but the NGO is still there and active. And I thought, well, what are you doing, like spending our money to be in this hotel? You know what I mean? You might as well vacate it. You guys should be shut down. And even the Jewish Family Services, their hotel was actually shut down in October due to water damage. So they were renovating it then, or just trying to fix it up. But there's a place just like a mile away from that, which is like their transfer site type of place where they pick them up from the border, bring them there, and then they take them to the hotel. And that was still like actively running. And that was leased to Jewish Family Services for like $1. And it was deemed surplus land back in 2017. And so they went through legislation to bring forward this place and say that it was in the best interest of the state to use it for migrants. And I was like, that's not in the best interest of the state. Like, the city of San Diego had an opportunity to use it for affordable housing, and they chose not to. And there's like a bunch of homeless down the road. Anyway, so that place just continued to, it almost seemed like there were more employees. And it was weird. But they do provide other services. So I get, like, are you just making this an office now? I don't know. But anyway, so I went back and I was doing a report. And when I saw the 4 Points was renovating even more, and they told me that, these employees told me that they're doing that because they're going to reopen it. And I don't know if it'll still be the 4 Points, but something along those lines. And I heard jackhammering at the Ramada, and I thought, well, that's interesting. Maybe they're just, what are they doing here? And then I saw one of the security guards who had seen me before, and he was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know they shut this place down. And he's like, after Trump came in, he was like, what they did became illegal. And he's like, and so they had to stop doing it. And I thought, it didn't become illegal. It always was illegal. But just the fact that he said that, so he was like, yeah, they couldn't do this anymore. And he's like, now they're renovating. He's like, but they're not. And one of their trailers was still there, but he was like, they just need to come and get this trailer. But like, I'm only here because they're renovating and we don't want anybody to, kind of like homeless to come in or whatever. And he's like, but I'm going to be out of here in a couple weeks. And he's like, I just wanted to let you know, because like you could go up behind, like he knew my whole thing. I'd go up behind, see what was happening up above, because you can look down and in. And he's like, you're not going to see anything. And so it was just funny because I thought interesting, but they're renovating because they got a lot of money from us to do that. So now they can renovate and then reopen and continue to make money. They should also be held accountable and shouldn't be able to do that, along with the bus company. This bus company that they were using is a woman-owned company. I mean, they're trafficking human beings. And they would, like, the crazy stuff they would tell them to do. That's why it was so weird. If a bus was coming and I'm like sitting outside there, they'll tell the bus to drive around the block and not just come in. Why would you do that? Why are you? It makes you look more suspicious. And that's the things they would do. That, like, it made them look more suspicious as opposed to like, there's nothing to see here. And, they'd call the police. They were trying to, get the, like, especially if we had an event outside. I mean, I stopped the bus from like leaving the hotel just by me standing in front of it. I was like, one person, all you need is one person to totally halt the operation. And they would like get real close to me with the bus. Like they wanted to run me over and stuff. But I would be like, no, make the bus back up. I was like, I'd like to see the bus go to the other exit, which was totally impossible because it was so big. But I'm like, what? I mean, you guys are acting, this is our money. I'm not going to allow you to continue to do this. And it's like, we should be putting up a fight like that because, they're getting, and especially the FEMA money, like they told the people in those disasters, like North Carolina and, Maui, like we don't have enough money, even probably in LA now too. Like we don't have enough money to help you guys because we've been given, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, to the illegals. And so we don't have anything for you. And it's like, that's what's so sad is that we leave our own behind. We can't even take care of our own. And we're sitting here acting like we're going to take care of these individuals. So it's just, that's what's nice is that it stopped. And that's another thing. I feel like I'm all over. I'm sorry. But this was coordinated from the countries with the NGOs, the cartels, all the way up to our border. And then moving them around. So it wasn't just like it's our government. I mean, these NGOs would know when the people are going to cross and where. How do you know that?
What you are describing is one of the most coordinated and biggest criminal rackets in human history. And our government is in on it from the very beginning. We have our legal system. We have judges protecting them. They're trying to shut down. One of the smartest things that Trump has done this administration was shutting down USAID, because that money is just, I mean, there's a ton of that money and it goes to a lot of these things. None of it for its stated purpose. That's why the legal system is fighting back so hard to keep that from happening.
Right.
It is it's systemic corruption at a level most Americans don't want to believe.
They don't. And well, look, I mean, what about all those unaccompanied alien children? That's what's so sad to me is, it was like when I started digging into that, it was very, very sad to me because I saw how many programs or things that they brought forward to mitigate it. Instead of going, why do we have children coming across with like something attached to their chest, or they're drugged up with these individuals? Like that was never questioned. It was like, oh, that's okay. We have a program. We have a foster care. We have, a sponsor for them to go to. 3,200 children in San Diego were at the convention center for 1 month. 1 month. And they said, we found their sponsors. And it's like, no, you didn't. You just trafficked those children. And some people know it. Like I did an event outside the convention center and was bringing light to that. They trafficked those children. And one of the employees, I said, they trafficked the children away from here. And she said, yeah, I do. I'm like, how can you work for this entity? I don't understand that. Like these people are like, it's like nobody was willing to say anything. And it's so bothersome because we shouldn't be like doing that with children. But then when I'm like, we're doing that with American children, it's just a different mechanism. You're taking them from their families, and it's like, and people think, well, they deserve to be taken because, they probably did something wrong. No, all they have to do is manufacture a reason because they're all coordinated just the same. All the judges, the attorneys, the caseworkers, everybody across the board is all in cahoots, and their whole plan is to get cash for these kids. So what do? You have to traffic them through the system, keep them wrapped up in the courts, just like they do with anybody, right? Like if it's probate court, whatever it is, if you're trying to keep your home, they want to come and take it. So they're going to exhaust all of your resources and keep you in litigation for such a long time that you have nothing by the time you're done. And so like if you're fighting for your kids, you don't have anything left, and then you have to rely on the system to come in and help. And instead of like, we'd have Border Patrol agents taking thousands of children to one location. What? Well, I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, how at no point were people just like, this has to stop. It was like, because it's a conveyor belt of kids. You just got to keep them coming and keep them coming in. And that's what they would say within, ORR and stuff like that, Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is under HHS. So HHS, when RFK said that they're the traffickers, that is true. They are the largest traffickers in the United States and probably the world. And instead, he's saying, I'm sorry, it makes me emotional sometimes, but he said, we stopped it. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And you're lying to the people when you're telling them that, and it wasn't just Biden. There's children have been coming across the border for a very long time. And it was even happening during Trump. And right now, the concern with me is that they're saying, and many of these children have grown up, right? So they're not children anymore that they're looking for. They need to be looking for adults. And not all of them, because there's some that are still the little children, like the babies, but many of these kids are not even alive anymore, or they're being raped, or they're being used as labor slaves. There's so many things that they could be used for. And by pretending that it stopped and that it's no longer happening, because why are they hiring 5,000 or reinstating 5,000 employees from Southwest Key program? They were the ones trafficking the children, the billion-dollar industry for them. And you're going to reinstate them? Why? If there's no children, are they coming across still, but in trucks and in cars and not by the means of the border anymore, where you're visually going to see it? Because it still happens. I mean, it's like, and if RFK won't also acknowledge that it's happening through CPS and foster care and family courts right now, then it's like we're doing the people a disservice, because you're acting like you're combating it. But then again, why are you making these decisions? Even Tom Homan was talking about wanting to use the same NGOs that have been trafficking the kids outside of Southwest Key to like help them afterwards. And I'm like, this is a problem, is when we're not holding these NGOs accountable for their deeds. Yes, you were paid and incentivized by the government, but you're still guilty of it. So, and if we don't, that's why they can then, because there's potentials that Southwest Key program could rebrand themselves into something else. That's why they dropped the suit, right? The lawsuit and the investigation. Then you can reinstate these employees, but is it going to be under a different name? So then they can go in and get the grants that they need to get and start business all over again. Because that's what these places do. Once you have something bad happen and it kind of taints your name, they'll go ahead and to rebrand to go, oh, we're something new. It has nothing to do with that anymore. So then people just think it's, they're none the wiser. But that's a problem. And right now they're engaging in other rackets. Like I'm saying, Jewish Family Services and then the Catholic Charities offer other things. And they should be making, like, you should go in and audit them and make sure, where's that money being spent? If you're providing every service under the sun because you're just so great, obviously, like if you focused on just one thing, right? Like if it was just homelessness, then you could be like, we're really good at it, we're helping it. But if you're just like kind of good at a lot of different things, all you're doing is wanting to get the money. You're not really caring about providing a good service. Because anytime I hear about a service they provide, there's always complaints and always stuff that they're doing wrong within it, but nobody holds them accountable.
Well,
And so the racket continues.
Yeah, the government bureaucrats just want to check the boxes. No,
Yeah.
They don't actually care about the quality of the product.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Keep going on this stuff, because I've got a acquaintance in DC who's got Bobby Kennedy's ear, and I'm going to make sure he gets to hear this. So keep on blasting everything that's still going on. because this is going to be heard.
Yeah, because so, it's just, and that's why I like to encompass both like sides of the trafficking, where I'm saying the Americans and that, because it is such a lucrative business. And that's the problem, is that if there was no money involved, then, I think that things would go better, because it wouldn't be like there's incentive to do the dirty work that they're doing. But that's why we need to look into the funding that comes in, and where they're spending it. There needs to be more checks and balances as far as the breakdown of that money, and like how many people did you serve. And it's concerning to me to see that, like I'm saying, when you're saying the problem is fixed, and we're doing all of these things that would seem like you're wanting to do more of the same, but just might maybe kind of like hide it. Um, that's a little bit scary to me, because we should be like, yeah, holding these entities accountable, and making sure that there is some kind of a, like, because what are they going to do with all of these children that they find, or many adults right now? They have been traumatized. And many of them are with a trafficker. So it's like, if you take them out of a trafficker's hands, what are you going to do with them? Because I don't feel like they ever made any kind of moves to make sure that there was some kind of refuge, a place of like some kind of sanctuary where they could go to, rehabilitate. It's almost as if what they're doing is going in and, trying to round up a lot of these illegal aliens, without holding the traffickers accountable again, right? It's like, yes, I know that they made a mistake coming, but they were also incentivized. So we need to look at the people incentivizing them and telling them that this was a good idea to come in. But none of these people were seeking asylum for the most part. So, there'll be like reports from some of these illegal aliens about trafficking or whatever, or labor um, issues, like they're exploiting them for labor. And instead of holding the trafficker and the person doing that accountable, they'll just come and round up the people and take them out of the country. And it's like, I just, we can't be, the longer you wait to hold the people accountable that have been doing this, there's going to be no accountability, because then it'll be like, well, it's been so long, you might as well just let it go, kind of a thing. Like, they should have been the ones that were gone after immediately. And, and there needs to be more like reform. I'm kind of all over the place, but my mind is just like,
No, keep going.
as far as the systems in place, because like with the unaccompanied alien children, it was like, ORR and ICE and all these NGOs and different things weren't in, they didn't, there was no centralized database where they could share information. So they would say, well, we don't know that they didn't make it to their court date. It's like they would just have to send emails to each other, and that's intentional. Like, they want to centralize everything with their data as far as the government goes. So for you to not have it with such an important thing like unaccompanied alien children that you're just allowing to come across, that shows that you're willfully negligent, so that you can make these excuses to say, well, we just kind of lost track of them. And it's like, no, you didn't, because many of them never even had a notice to appear. Like, the whole way that it was going, I mean, there's a lot of corruption even just within DHS and these individuals who are engaged in the trafficking, who would want money, so they don't really care, which does a disservice to the agents that actually were there to do a good job. But we need to really be looking into these things, and especially with the CPS and foster care and family courts. They're manufacturing cases in order to take these children. And it's like, there's so many facets to it, because there's it, like with the family courts, that's through divorce, right? So somebody's getting a divorce and you're trying to figure out custody, and instead of putting these children, like if there's an abusive parent and one of the other parents is trying to protect their children and or themselves from this abusive individual, and instead of the children going with the parent who's not abusive, they will demonize the parent that came forward and reported the abuse, acting like they're putting their children in danger because maybe they didn't call soon enough, or they allowed it to happen. And so they wind up putting this child with an abusive parent. I have the video that I would love for Bobby to see. But it is of a little girl. At the time she was 5, and she was explaining how her father was sexually assaulting her, sticking his penis in her mouth, doing different things. Okay. And this fell upon deaf ears. This is insane to me. I'm a victim. So it's like, there's no way she could have made all of this up. It was very detailed and very, like, for over 10 minutes, she's talking about what has taken place. There were even, reports she had bloody underwear, and she was saying that her pee-pee hurt. There was people coming to the school, like her principal knew. They were doing things because they were trying to even say, like, maybe it's her mom coaching her. There's no way, because this was being told outside of the care of her mom, and just the detail that she would give would be very hard to keep it in such a manner that you would understand, like, what you're talking about. And they placed this little girl with her father, and she has been with him for 6 years now, in having to endure this abuse. And so this is the kind of stuff that happens. Instead of reunifying families like they're supposed to, what they do is they'll give a case plan to these parents, but they have no intention of giving them back. Bill Clinton and his administration, I believe is in 97, brought forward where they adopt the children out after 15 months. And so it's like, all they need to do is keep you in limbo for 15 months so that you can fail whatever they need you to fail, or just, they can keep you, thinking that you're moving forward, when in fact they don't ever have any intention of giving those kids back. So what they do is they'll adopt them out to who knows who. And I think part of that, there's things that could be potentially where there's people looking to adopt kids, and they will have someone manufacture a case on that family. And I know it sounds far-fetched, and that's not happening with all of them, but it is happening. And so, but they manufacture the cases outside of that as well. And there's caseworkers that have come forward and said, I was told to lie on the reports, and if I don't do it, like, they'll get fired for it. So they need these people to, have fraud in this. Even judges know that there will be fraudulent claims. There's no evidence to back it up, and they will still rule in favor of the wrong person. Or if a family, like what they're doing as well, is taking these children out of country, on vacation with their caregivers. And if the parents don't want that to happen, they'll retaliate and say, well, then we're going to send them to the Polensky Center, which is one of the centers that abuses these children sexually and has been for decades. And there's lawsuits. They shouldn't even be sending kids there, but they'll threaten to do it. Or we'll put them with somebody these kids don't even know. And it's like, why are you acting like that? You know what I mean? Instead of having compassion or something, because the parents are concerned, like, are my children going to be trafficked when they're going to the Dominican Republic with people I don't even know? Like, how do I know that you're going to be making the right decision on their behalf? And so they retaliate in that way. And if they want to speak out about it and say the things that are going on, they're retaliated against. And they'll keep them further from even, being able to get the kids. And it's like, it is beyond me to think, that, like, these are our First Amendment rights. You should be able to say, this is what's happening. And instead they want to silence them. And it's like, well, why would you do that if there's nothing wrong here? Like, if you're doing something that is good, then why do you care if somebody's talking about it? You just don't want to look bad. Then don't do those things. Like, I'm tired of people getting mad for being exposed. It's like, how about you course correct and do the right thing and make sure that this isn't happening? Instead, you're mad because people are talking about it. Well, I mean, let's get real here. I mean, children are suffering. They're literally being punished right now, and they don't know. Like, imagine being that child and being taken from your parents, put with someone you don't even know, and being tossed around. And then after 15 months, you're supposed to go live with the new family. And these people will say to the parents, you don't want them to go be with a loving family? Like, how could you not want that for your child? Excuse me? Why would you even say that? I am their parent. I want to raise them. And so it's like, these people have to watch, or not even watch, because they can't even be around their children, know that they're growing up without them. And
Yeah, we've heard a lot of these stories about child protective services, but the fact that you're really putting a spotlight on it, it's Well, to me, it's going to be it's symptomatic, the corruption, and just worse than corruption. It's pure evil, but it's
Yeah.
symptomatic of what happens when you get a government that is the largest in history. It's a bureaucratic mess, trillions of dollars spending, and no ability to track it. It
Yeah.
screams for decentralization and federalizing things.
Yeah.
Because obviously the system's too big to be monitored. Question for you.
Intentionally so, though.
Yeah. So we've heard from cartel members in the past, and they said, we're not your problem. Your problem is you've got a demand for our product in America. Get rid of the demand and the supply goes away. You take that same notion, why is there such a demand for human trafficking in this country? I mean, I can use my imagination. We've heard about, body parts, everything like that, medical experimentation,
Yeah.
obviously prostitution, but you mentioned child labor. But that demand is here in the United States. And where does that take place? And who are these people that are
Right.
creating who was creating the demand? That's the answer I'd like to get to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and a lot of it's like these factories. I mean, why would anybody, want to have child labor? That's what's so crazy. But if you think about it, like children, they sit here and talk, oh, children are our future. No, they're not. They're your commodity to exploit and to get money off of, because you can sell a human over and over. You can sell drugs one time, right? And America is the biggest consumer of child porn, and there's a pedophilia like running rampant. I mean, I've never seen so much of it, but I don't know if I'm just more aware of it or if there's more. I think it's a little bit of both. But the fact, like, there's an attack on the children across the board, whether it's through from before they're born with an abortion or with all of their gender affirming care, the sexualization of them in school sets them up to be trafficked and for a predator to come in, because they're talking about, and they say it's for safe sex. So they're teaching them about butt plugs and incest and, where to masturbate in your rooms or in your house so that your parents don't catch you. And the way to have safe sex so you don't get pregnant is to have anal sex. And it's like, what the hell is going on? And then you get, them coming in from like CPS and all of those things. And then you have all of these places that are supposed to be, like a center for children, and they're hiring pedophiles, because like what better place to go than just to a place where there's kids, like a school, right? There's teachers that are sexually abusing children. You can go to the church and they do it. You can go to the doctor's office and they do it. You could go to a park. I mean, no place is immune from a predator coming in and doing something to children. And I feel like it's like, because they're trying to accept it. So even like the pride flag, that is a pedophile flag, because that is acknowledging, glorifying, and honoring predators. It has maps on there, minor attracted persons. I don't care if you redefine the word, it is still pedophile. And the fact that you want to glorify it up on a pole and act like it makes everyone feel safe, no. I'm not today, Satan. I'm not going to let you deceive people into thinking that. So my question to all of these officials has been, are you guys pedophiles? Because if you are not, why are you allowing this to happen? Because you're no better than the perpetrator doing it if you're not willing to acknowledge it and halt it in its tracks. Instead, you guys give these people awards and you act like, oh, it's so great. Let's quit doing that and get back into reality. Because I think people don't understand that with the pride flag. I'm like, you're literally glorifying, it's a sexual preference now, right? And they're acting like, well, it's just you love, it's like child love. So the more that they open the door so wide, it allows people to then just act like it's acceptable. And America is set up for some really hard times if we don't course correct, because the seeds that have been sown in this nation are very dark, and they continue to go down that path. And God will rain hard and heavy and on our nation if we don't turn away, because like this kind of stuff, oh my gosh. And the fact that you're accepting it because you don't want your feelings to be hurt, or you don't want to hurt someone else's feelings, or not have somebody like you. Okay, well, because your unwillingness to do that, children are being raped right now because it's too hard for you to speak out about. I cannot sit idly by and know that that is happening and do absolutely nothing about it. That's why it is such a passion for me to stand in the gap for these children, because I have been that child and I know what it's like to want somebody to stop it, and they don't. And it's only perpetuated since that time. So for me, I feel like that is why God has me here doing this at this time, because I shouldn't even be here. I mean, I should be dead. So it's like, just the fact that I'm here, I'm very lucky. And that's a whole another story. But like, you know, I know that he has us in this place at this time, and it is up to us to stand against the darkness. And it is not hard, but this is a spiritual battle. And I don't think people quite understand that. There is spiritual wickedness infiltrating every aspect of this world. And if we don't acknowledge that and understand that the tools that we need is to have our Heavenly Father and put on the armor of God to be able to fight this battle, we're not going to, America is going to be destroyed. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't want to have to. That's why I'm trying to get people to course correct. But if not, then we deserve everything we get, because we're not willing to do what needs to be done to make sure that this doesn't happen. Not just accept it and go along with it because you don't want to like lose friends. I'd rather have no friends and walk this world alone fighting against the evil than have a million friends and be complacent and be
Amen.
complicit.
Amen to that. That was probably one of the best closing rants I think I've ever had on this channel. And there's no reason for us to go any deeper. That's a great thought to leave everyone with. You are always a rock star. Thanks for sharing all that with us. Can you tell everybody where they can find you for more of this?
Yes, you can find me on X. I'm at eyeoftheS.T.O.R.M. You can go to my Rumble channel, which is Eye of the Storm. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me at Eye of the Storm SD there, or I'm sorry, drajmorgan. It looks like Dr. AJ Morgan. And then I'm on True Social, Eye of the Storm SD, TikTok, Eye of the Storm SD. So pretty much even YouTube as well, Eye of the Storm SD. So anytime you see Eye of the Storm, that's me. My name means storm, in fact. Audra means storm. And storm means standing together, organizing a revolutionary movement. So it's all that.
We are the storm.
That's right.
I will have all those links in the description at the bottom of the video on my Rumble channel. Audra, thank you so much for coming on. We'll do it again soon.
Yes, brother. Thank you so much.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers. God bless.